Blink twice and you'll miss it. Because this film has kind of flown under the radar. Personally though, I'm not that surprised. Blink Twice has the intense saturation and summer vacation vibes of Spring Breakers, a typically comedic good guy actor in a more serious villain role, and is Zoë Kravitz's first film as director. Added with the coy marketing strategy where you won't hear much talk about this film unless you've been actively looking for it, Blink Twice hasn't really built up any expectation for being a decent horror thriller to look forward to. Which I think is a real shame, because Blink Twice is truly a commendable film. That's especially if you appreciate the craft of cinema, the way the camera is used as a form of narrative expression, how colour can create a sense of thematic structure. Blink Twice's strength really is in its stylistic choices, which admittedly does a lot of the heavy lifting in telling the story, maybe at the expense of a more clear-cut development of the plot. But before I get into all of that, what is Blink Twice about? Frida is a cocktail waitress unhappy with how insignificant and invisible she is in society. She takes a special interest into billionaire bad boy seemingly turned good Slater King, who after multiple misconduct allegations has stepped away from his company as he seeks therapeutic healing on his tropical island. In a twist of fate, Frida and King meet, hit it off, and Frida and her friend Jess are invited to King's remote island for a summer vacation to remember. That's if they could remember. But with their memory not adding up and the beautiful days beginning to meld together, paradise soon starts to take a sinister turn. A Harlequin romance gone wrong, the film is a bold take on storytelling where certain elements are almost defiantly against the audience expectation for the horror thriller genre. The tone oscillates between being a vibrant satire of the rich and famous and being a darkly menacing thought exercise on exploitation, where typical horrors have stereotypically beautiful actresses like Adria Iona in the main role, Frida and Jess add an entertainment value and chemistry that I think works far better in providing the unexpected perspective the film is trying to provide. That being said, most of the characters, but particularly Frida, played by Naomi Aki, and Jess, played by Alia Shawkat, have likeable, unique personalities that bring a lot of fun and connection to the story. Surprisingly, King, played by Channing Tatum, has a likability and charm that makes his sudden offer to come to his island less patently sinister than it really otherwise would be. Even the island resort setting goes against expectations in similar ways that Midsummer and its Swedish sun subverts the idea that scary things only go bump in the night. Where this may seem like a confusing suspension of elements, there is the argument that the film emulsifies its direction with its style, because no one can disagree that the film has got style. If we boil it down, well, it's difficult to boil it down because Blink Twice is a social commentary of, well, many things. The film tries to do a lot of things at once and say a lot of things at once. It condemns celebrity hero worship, comments on the futility of cancel culture, offers a brutal dialogue about the almost institutional level of exploitation perpetuated within wealthy circles, and plays on society's demand for women to vie for male attention, among other things. The use of memory as a way to build mystery is largely successful. If not in concealing what's actually going on the island, it's pretty easy to figure that out, then in laying out the puzzle pieces in an interesting way. This is done best through the little props and costume details that hold great significance. A lighter constantly being misplaced, for example. A dress that had red wine on it being suddenly clean. Similarly, the camera works hard to develop an interesting atmosphere. It's no way subtle in treating every frame as a piece of art, interweaving static wide shots with extreme close-ups, tracking shots to make a party scene feel fluid and absorbing, and Dutch angles where the characters are lounging on the ground to suggest a sense of foreboding under the ease and relaxation of the island. There is also really intense use of shadows in some of the scenes that instantly give the feeling of a Rembrandt painting, with the amount of drama and emotion it conveys. This use of thematic craft beyond dialogue and action in order to develop the story is indeed how the majority of the film is told. Colour motifs are particularly utilised to underline the story beats. Some of the most significant ones are yellow, which represents caution, danger, and the sickness of being close to the awful truth. At different points, Jess and Frida wear yellow head towels, coinciding with moments of understanding and uncovering what's happening on the island. Similarly, Jess's lighter is yellow, and like I said, the lighter is a key element in unveiling the mystery. White, which represents innocence and unknowing, is the colour of the clothing the girls are given when they get to the island, and red, used for things like the manor house and the enigmatic phrase "red rabbit" said by the maid is used efficiently as the direct contrast to white to mean knowledge, rage, power, pain, etc. etc. At some point in the movie, the men go fishing and bring back a red snapper, posing with the fish as if it was wild game, which I suppose by definition it is. I found the thematic connotations implied with hunting a red fish a particularly ingenious way of utilizing a motif to develop the story. All that's to say, the style and the various themes it symbolizes is the biggest communicator of Blink Twice's story. A significant amount of the plot is expressed through the interweaving connotations, implications, thematic considerations, and motifs. But with so much effort being placed to tell the story through the way the film looks, it's inevitable that it comes at the expense of a film's typical way of advancing and developing its plot, that is, through the dialogue and action. If you disregard the style, the more obvious elements of storytelling are found pretty lacking in places. The dialogue is ironically nothing to write home about, and some of the monologues practically spell out the underlying message of the film. Nowhere near sounding natural, these monologues sit on the razor-thin edge of being suitably dramatic and sounding preachy over the well-covered ground of female empowerment and male allyship. It doesn't quite go over the edge, but it does suggest that there was some doubt that style could adequately tell the story, and so made what should have been more subtle incredibly obvious. The action, and by that I mean what the characters do to progress the story, is slightly muddled in the middle, which we can blame mostly on the memory loss element of the narrative. And if we are still disregarding how the style and atmosphere actively progress the storyline, the middle of the film doesn't have the characters do much except drink and smoke. Also, some of the decisions made by the characters are downright stupid, and likewise, some of the psychological and physiological truths that the film takes for granted doesn't draw much sense within the realm of science. If you watch the film, you'll know what I mean. Though I will say that there is one scene where Tatum's character chases after Adria Iones's, and the way Tatum closes the distance as he is running full pelt after her really displays the physical disparity between men and women, a reality shown in a downright terrifying way. Last thing I'll say on this point is that the end of the film makes more sense thematically than being a purely logical turn of events, so it may seem like the film ends on an equivocal or perplexing note. My argument, though, is that the style is telling the story. All the stylistic choices have a practical use beyond simple aesthetics. They actively imply the film's atmosphere, the different characters' motivations, and their emotional development. The style foreshadows major story beats and provides those important shifts in the narrative significance when they do come. And I believe that the film has so much that it wants to say, allowing a lot of it to be seen but left unsaid is what makes the film a valuable watch. It's when the film does try to overtly express its message that it falters in its execution. Of course, the film has some problems, some of them glaring, but in wanting to approach the horror thriller genre from a completely different perspective, I believe Kravitz has made a film that will be hard to forget. Sorry.